You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 55, Ninja Book Descriptions with Bryan Cohen. Wax on, wax off.
Writing a book. It can be the best way to build or grow your business, or to simply tell the story that you wish to tell. Learn how to write your book in 30 days or less. Pick up 30-day offer today from Amazon, Apple iBooks, or other online retailers.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. Thanks for tuning in for another fun-filled week of pantsless wonder with the Word Slinger. Didn't that just roll off the tongue? I actually practiced that like 3 times before I actually recorded it, so and it actually doesn't make all that much sense. How's everybody doing? How you doing out there in Word Slinger land? I'm really glad you're here, tuning in for another week. When you're not here, it's just me talking to myself in a closet. So thank you for for giving me some legitimacy, so that there's not an altogether serious case for having me committed. Now, I have good news for those of you who have been kind of following along as we do our, as Kara and I do our RV life sort of transition. We do have a buyer for the house, so that's cool. We're going to be, I think I may have announced this already, but it's hard for me to tell anymore. But if I have, forgive me. It's exciting news. We're going to work on closing in late November, and so far so good. Everything's looking kind of good. We are, of course, we're still in October, so there's time. But and in the sort of interim, we're gonna, between the house and the RV, we're actually gonna get into a small apartment, and that'll be kind of our transition. So that's cool. I hope, I don't know how you feel about this whole idea, but I'm really excited about it. So, I'm going to do quite a few more episodes, I'm sure, here in the Word Slinger compound in near Houston, Texas. But then I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I've experimented with kind of ranging out and recording in new environments, figuring out this whole mobile lifestyle plan of ours. And on that note, again, now last week you listened in with my interview with Stephen Shortley. Sorry, Stephen. And I told you that was I recorded in a vehicle. I've done it again. So now, for whatever reason, Stephen's interview, I think he was talking to me on the mic built into his laptop, and it just kind of it didn't help with sound quality. But this week, I think we got it a little better, although there are a couple of moments in the interview where things went wrong. I'm figuring this out. I'm sorry. I'm just figuring this out as I go. I love having my little booth here. I love being able to look up at my monitor and, have the swing arm for the mic and all that. It's very cool. I got all the sound foam around me and everything. It's a very nice studio space. But, some sacrifices have to be made for this lifestyle that we're after, right? So if you're an unconventional entrepreneur or an author and you're looking to adapt a sort of mobile lifestyle, be prepared. I'm actually going to put some things together around this at some point. And you should let me know if that's something you're interested in, because as I get deeper into the exploration of how to do this work from anywhere, from literally anywhere, living, in an RV for a year or two while we travel and experience the world, and then living overseas at some point, which is part of the plan. I think I'll pick up a few tips that might be helpful. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'd like to know what kind of questions you have. So at any rate, that's the fun stuff for me that's going on right now. Of course, I recently released 30-Day Author. So if you are looking to develop a daily writing habit, or write your first book, or you just want a process for writing books faster, I recommend picking it up. Of course I would. I recommend picking it up. Now, there are a ton of books out there for writing fast, and that's whatever. I don't see that as competition. However, I do think that I offer kind of a unique perspective in that, I I have not just that formula, but I give some really solid recommendations on how you can get into a daily writing habit in the first place and why you'd want to. I give some reasons why you would want to have a book if you were just, if you're not interested in writing fiction, but you're an entrepreneur and you want to help promote your business. A book is a great promotion tool. It's a great business card. That sort of thing. I get into that. I get into a little bit of marketing for books in this book. It's a short read. I didn't want to cram it too full of basically irrelevant information. I mean, I wanted to give you the heart of the whole thing. So go check that out. It's 30 Day Author. You can find that on Amazon, on Apple, on Barnes & Noble, Kobo, all your finer book retailers. And you can go visit kevintumlinson.com/30dayauthor. That's all one word. No, I think I hyphenated it again. 30-day-author. Go try that. If not, just email me. Go to kevintumlinson.com and hit contact. Or you can go to wordslingerpodcast.com and do the same thing. Okay, all the self-promotion is out of the way. So, with no further ado, let's jump in. Let's talk with Bryan Cohen. And, this is a great conversation about copywriting, about book descriptions. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And regardless of whether you're an author or not, pay close attention to what you're getting here, because there's some great rules for using copywriting in a promotional sense. So check it out. I loved talking with Bryan, and I will circle back with you after the interview. Hey, everybody. All right. So I'm talking to somebody, and I was just telling him this before the show. Somehow I am always trailing right behind the self-publishing podcast guys, but I'm talking to one of their recent guests, which is Bryan Cohen. He's a best-selling author. He's also a book description ninja. That I've learned that about you recently, Bryan, that you are skilled in the game. And, I'm actually going to be going through all my book descriptions and retooling things, especially now that Amazon's gone and screwed up the whole layout there and everything. Everything. So welcome on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I keep hearing about you, and we just got introduced by Alyssa Archer of the Writership podcast, and I was really glad that she made the introduction, because I'd been hearing about this pantless word slinger.
Yeah, everybody hears about the pantsless word slinger. So tell me, okay, you're a best-selling author, and I always like to start with that because that's my ambition in life. So tell me about your best-selling author works.
Well, it's funny because the best-selling author gets thrown around a lot. The way in which I'm best-selling is I've hit number one in a couple different categories with a couple different kinds of books. Mm-hmm. I have 3 best-selling claims to fame. One is my most recent, which is Ted Saves the World, which is a young adult sci-fi fantasy book.
Excellent.
And that hit number one in that Amazon category. Did it sell 1 million copies? No, but it hit number one in that category before the sexy romance took over the superhero category. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Lots of sexy shifter romance took over that category.
And what you're saying is I'm writing the wrong books. I need to write sexy superhero shifter books.
Believe you me, with I've now written over 200 descriptions for this description business, which I'll talk about more later. Mm-hmm. A lot of sexy shifter romance. Okay. People have hired me. Nice. So I'm now working for the enemy. I have also, with a business book, a kind of a motivational business book that I very consistently have given away for free, which has kept me at the top of kind of an entrepreneurial category for a while, is How to Work for Yourself, which is just an infectious title. And I've given over 200,000 copies of that away. Ask me if my email subscription was connected to that, because it was not.
Oh,
it was
no.
Not. But I didn't have anything to. I didn't know what I was doing when I put that book out. And then the other was my first book I put out, 1,000 Creative Writing Prompts, which is, like it sounds, it's a book of 1,000 writing prompts that people can use for starting their books, their short stories, their songs, their whatever. And that it still remains my best-selling book of all time, and did well, and it was the first thing I put out in August 2010. So we kind of went backwards on that one.
Yeah.
Just reverse order
Why do
best-selling authordom.
why do you think the writing prompts are so popular?
Well, I think it's kind of a timeless thing. It's kind of something that a lot of people want. Not, I mean, you look at say like something like the K boards, where a lot of authors hang out, a lot of self-published authors hang out, and there's thousands of people who hang out there. But then you go to something like the Reddit writing prompts board, their subreddit, and it's like 200,000 or 400,000 people. And so it really shows you that there's a lot of people writing. They aren't necessarily all writers, but there's a lot of people that enjoy writing and that do it on the side and that like having prompts around that can jog their creativity. Because a lot of people just don't have a good routine for that. So there comes the prompts, like a giant buffalo going across the plains. I don't know.
The majestic writing prompt.
The majestic writing prompt.
Floating gaily across the plains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never really been able to use. I mean, okay. I'm gonna make myself a liar because one of my most popular novellas started with a writing prompt. So I'm not gonna say that lie. I was gonna say I've never really been able to use those, but maybe it was one of yours. Who knows? I don't even actually know where that came from.
Who knows? I don't know.
So, okay, so you got the writing prompt stuff, and I was just looking at your author page on Amazon. You got a couple of those.
Oh yeah. Well,
They both
I wrote several thousand prompt books. There's 5, and there's one that's 500 for kids. And then I separated all of them up into workbooks for students.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And mostly have sold those as paperbacks. But so as a result, there's like over 30 writing prompts books with my name on them on Amazon. But really, I only wrote 6, and then I just chopped them up.
Okay, that's smart.
It worked. It's been great. I've gotten the word out to, I think, a lot of homeschool parents buy those, and a lot of parents who don't want their kids to their brains to rot during the summer.
Right.
And so yeah, that's been really interesting. Just seeing how that side of my business has worked out.
Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of traction with like the education industry? I mean, are you selling a lot of books there?
Yeah, I think it's something that maybe not enough people are tapping into for sure, because I mean, I looked to see what writing prompts kind of books there were, and there were kind of like the Scholastic,
Right.
like the top 3 brands had their things out, and they were like 5-10 years old. So I figured, I'll slap a cover on it that kind of looks like those, and and put these together, and yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work to get all the formatting together and make sure everything was edited, and this was the early days where, I mean, I didn't like, now I have like these podcasts and I have these giant projects and these multi-author Facebook events and all this stuff I do, and back then I wasn't doing any of that. So I didn't like know what to do really. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I just kind of soldiered through, and I learned a lot through the process. And I really recommend, if you've got kind of an idea and you're like, I think this could be really good, I mean, just push through and do it as best as you can, and keep going, because everyone's got their 900 moments where they want to quit, but
Right.
But yeah, so I think that's been really helpful for me.
Figure out how to split it up into like 30 different books. That's probably helpful too.
Yeah, it never hurts to just be like, yeah, I have over 40 books. Yay!
So what about your fiction? What is how do you categorize your fiction? Is it like superhero stuff? Is that what you were
I'd say
at?
young adult, superhero, young adult sci-fi fantasy. I think that it's just a lot of kind of Joss Whedon, witty, goofy fun that gets tragic from time to time. Also like Joss Whedon. So basically, I'm just copying Joss Whedon.
Well,
But
I'm gonna say, man, when I first saw one of your fiction covers, and in my brain, I thought it was a cover from Buffy. So
Oh,
I think
yeah.
you're pulling it off.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I definitely took a lot of inspiration from the Buffy DVD covers
Okay,
for my covers. So
very cool.
yeah,
Are
and
you?
we took those photos
Oh, you did.
live in Chicago, where I live, and so I could make sure that I had the same models and all the poses that I wanted. So we got some local college kids to pose as high schoolers and did a whole. I mean, I used to do theater, so auditioning things is not
Right.
out of my wheelhouse. And friends with a photography company, and we put it together and took pictures. And then I have a designer from Robot Brain Designs, and they took what I had and made it what it is.
I think that's interesting that you. I don't. I know tons of people who design their own covers. I don't know, or well, they control the design of their covers.
Yeah.
But I don't know many who actually go out and do a photo shoot. So now you've raised the bar.
Yeah, I think well, now it's something that I will always do.
Yeah.
I will, like, I never want to have it a different way because I just enjoyed the process so much. And both of the actors were really fun to work with. And it was just such a good time. And I know that in the future, and it's given me so much flexibility for social media images and
Yeah.
which I don't take advantage of as much as I should, but it definitely opened things up in a way that if you're just buying stock photos off some website that you don't have.
That's true. Yeah. You're kind of stuck with what you get when you do it that way. Well,
Yeah.
My Sawyer Jackson covers are stock, a model from stock photos, and I bought
Yeah.
every version of the whether I thought I would use it or not. I bought everything that guy appeared in so that I'd have the option, but you're still kind of limited.
Yeah.
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 That's cool.
I think it's smart that you did that too, because you bought all of them. But
Right.
yeah.
You never know when they're going to disappear. So we'll
Yeah.
and we'll see down the road. So suddenly Sawyer Jackson may develop a mustache or a beard or something.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. So, okay, you've got a variety of books. So, what type of author do you consider yourself?
I always like to say fiction and nonfiction because I mean, I haven't written the nonfiction in a while, but I have a nonfiction-y podcast
Yeah.
in the Sell More Books show. And my business that I'm running, Best Page Forward, for the book description writing and expanding into some new copywriting areas soon for authors.
Yeah.
It's very nonfiction. Like if I wrote the book tomorrow, copywriting for authors, that would be, really an extension of the stuff that I'm doing. So I definitely think, even though I haven't written nonfiction in a while, so many of my things tie into what the basis of nonfiction is, which is someone has a problem and you give them the tools to solve it.
Right.
And so even though the fiction is more recent, I like to say I'll call myself a multi-hyphenate author.
All right. We're going to break the hyphenates out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so all right. I come at this business from copywriting as well. Like
Yeah.
the majority of my adult life was spent as a copywriter. So, I know how that can inform your career as an author.
Yeah.
How do you see it influencing what you've done?
Oh, well, I definitely think that it's taught me the value of words. You learn how to write short, punchy phrases very well, which
Right.
certainly helps with descriptions. It certainly helps with all the side author things, sending emails and sounding like yourself instead of sounding like a selling robot
Right.
or anything. But I think with the fiction, it really helps as well because you learn a lot about the sound of words. And I've always appreciated the sound of words, took poetry classes in college and whatnot. And doing theater, I've read a lot of lines out loud and improv scenes, doing things out loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think every author should learn more about copywriting.
Yeah.
And I don't just say that as a guy who's working on some author copywriting training.
Okay, look, you can't write copywriting for authors. I'm already working on that book.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
No, you do what you got to do, man.
Okay. Cool,
I will say
appreciate that.
that copywriting to me helped a lot because it helped me. I was used to the idea of writing in someone else's voice, I guess, like taking on a different persona.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's probably helpful, especially for fiction.
Yeah, oh, definitely. But I think also when you have a character that you want to be kind of the voice of the author,
Yeah.
copywriting helps you to figure out how to write like yourself too. And
Yeah.
so I think both sides, totally what you're saying, but also kind of the other side of the coin.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're all right, now you have a podcast, you have a show.
Two, actually.
You do have two. Okay, I only know about one. What's the other
I'll
one?
tell you about the other one.
Okay,
The other
well,
one's called The Split. It's a young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. Myself and Aussie author Robert Scanlon, we read a book every week, and then we talk about if we liked it and what a writer fellow authors could learn based on how this book did things well and how it did things poorly.
Okay, all right. I am scared to death of that podcast, but
Well, we don't read your book.
oh, okay, all right, good deal. Although I'm interested, I'm going to have to check that out. I did not know about that. I knew about Sell More Books show, which when I see the URL, I just want to drag out the S's because they're all together. Sell More Books.
Sell More Books.
How?
Shall. Yep, I agree.
How do you see the podcast is impacting your career?
Oh man, I mean, I do want to at some point write a book about why everybody needs a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm got that in mind too. People like us, we have lots of projects in mind.
Too many.
Too many. Too many.
And usually unpaid, which kind of
Often
blows,
unpaid, but they can become paid when you sell the thing. So, but I hear you. I have a fun story. Last year, Jim Kukroll, who's my co-host on the show, and I were running a multi-author Facebook event, which is one of my favorite signature promotional events.
Right.
And it was back in November, and we'd been running the podcast for about 5 or 6 months. So people were starting to follow it. People were starting to get a kick out of it. And the morning of the event, I spilled a large glass of water, actually with apple cider vinegar in it because I'm a witch doctor, all over my keyboard. And it's a laptop, so it was all over the computer.
Oh, nice.
So it was basically toast. And Jim said, "Hey, take a picture of you airing out your computer." Like I was using my wife's computer during the event, and he said, "Take a picture of you airing out your computer. I'm gonna put something together." I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm gonna crowdfund your new laptop." And I said, "Dude, you don't have to do that." He's like, "You know nothing," and the wisdom of Jim Kukroll. And so I did take the picture, and within 2 days, by the virtue of all these people that had been listening to me and Jim on the show, Jim put out the word and said, "Bryan's destroyed his laptop." If you like the stuff that he's been doing, and he was really nice enough to donate author marketing club memberships and whatnot for people joining in. But he by the virtue of these people who knew me and liked me, he crowdfunded this $1,300 laptop, and within 2 days, I had the money to go completely just get the new laptop. And that's the power of a podcast. That's
no kidding. Yeah.
That's the power of where you can be reaching out to people and just make it a weekly thing or a daily thing for crazy people like Matt Morris with Author Strong.
Insanity.
Insanity. He's an incredible person.
That's so much time. I just can't even.
Yeah, him and Nancy both. But I was just so impressed by that, and I think that if you do put in the time every week and you're creating something that a lot of people care about, it's going to make a difference. And I've definitely found that since then, when I've launched things, launched books, launched my business, when you're launching something related to your podcast, it makes a bigger impact. Like when I launched Best Page Forward, it was a much bigger impact than if I launched the TED books.
Yeah.
Because your like is better to promote on like. But yeah, I mean, how has this affected my career? It's made a huge impact. I've met so many people, and it's led to new opportunities that I never would have dreamed of beforehand.
That's a very good point. I tell people that all the time. It's incredible. I mean, I've been running this show for a year. And in that time, I've met so many fantastic people that I never would have had an opportunity to meet. So yeah it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, it's definitely nuts, but a nuts that's worth it.
Yeah, a lot of work though. So you have a business you've set up to write book descriptions. I'm going to get that out.
Yes.
I'm going to say it properly here at some point. So how does that work?
Well, I launched it in June, I suppose. Simon Whistler of Rocking Self-Publishing, who I'm in a mastermind with, actually gave me the idea.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And yeah, he's a really generous guy with his ideas. I appreciate every single one he gives people. But he said, look, man, you're already doing all this copywriting stuff on the side, and you have these great window into a lot of people know you from Sell More Book Show. So why don't you take that copywriting and start writing author descriptions or something? He didn't even say it like you should write author descriptions. He was like, yeah, something like that. and so within the week I had set up the business because it was a great idea. And I had over 100 description orders in the first month and a half. And wow. It was crazy. It was just insane. Some of those were multiple order people who ordered one and then liked it and then ordered 13. I had one woman recently who liked one I'd written for her 2 months ago, hadn't heard from her at all, and then she just goes ahead and buys 20. And that was cool. Nice. It was a little overwhelming, but it was cool. And so how it works is I don't have time to read 100 books in a month. I have enough time to read 4 books for my podcast, and that's it. And so what I do is I read the existing description, and I ask some pointed questions depending on what genre it is. I have kind of 3 fiction questions and 3 nonfiction questions that I ask. And related to kind of what would your ideal New York Times review say? What's the 4-act structure of this book in a short, I always say like, oh, you could just do it in a sentence. And then I get like paragraphs and paragraphs.
Of course, yeah.
But which is good, which is helpful. And then I just ask what makes your book stick out, what makes it unique. And I take the answers to those questions and I take the existing descriptions and I sit down and write my kind of 4-part book description. And it goes beyond the synopsis. It tries to sell the book. That's the whole point of this business is I want authors to be able to sell more books. I mean, I freaking co-host a show called the Sell More Book Show. So obviously this is something I'm interested in. And people have liked it, and some people have gotten increased sales, and no one that I know of has gotten decreased sales. So, so I think it's going well so far.
Yeah. Okay. So, give me the anatomy of a good book description.
Give you the anatomy of a good book description, but I'll say right now, I also have a cheat sheet going around.
Okay. Which people can get if they register on your website, right?
It's not just that.
Oh.
They can go to authorcopy.com and they actually get to enter into a $1,000 giveaway for my services.
Nice.
And they get the cheat sheet.
Okay.
So they get both.
Okay.
But yeah, so this cheat sheet, which says what I will say right now, is that there's basically 4 parts to a good book description, and it's your tagline, which people have told me taglines are at the end, but I put it at the beginning. Yeah. It's essentially a headline for your book description, and this is your hook. This is where you get people fired up. Depending on your genre, it's going to be very different. A nonfiction one is usually going to be, have you ever struggled with this? Well, this book will save your life. And then fiction goes into a couple of different story elements of the book, whether it be character or the world or or the conflict that's going on, and kind of says, the world is crumbling. Can one elf lady just come back against
Can one
all
superhero
odds?
shape-shifting damsel save the
Yes,
world?
exactly, exactly. And her hunky werewolf. Yeah, no, you get it.
Yeah.
But so you got that headline. You got something that's punchy. You want to make people read on because, as you mentioned earlier, Amazon's done a lot of changes.
Jerks.
Uh, yeah, those jerks. And so there's on mobile, there's particularly little room, and on desktop now you can only see about 4 or 5 lines. So you need to get people quick,
Yeah.
and then you can go into your synopsis, which I'm really big on. Just getting kind of a good rhythm and tone that's related to your genre.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously going to be very different for our shifter superhero romance than it is our motivational book on life. So you kind of just got to keep with the tone of what you're writing so that people feel like, yeah, I could jump right in from this description into buying the book. Then I have a selling paragraph in which I find some great adjectives related to the book and talk about that. And I also mention, hey, this book is by this person and it's in this series, which for some reason authors don't like to put that in their description. But
I think we forget.
yeah.
I
Oh,
know I
no.
do.
Most of this is forget.
Yeah.
Most of this is just people forget. And then there's a call to action at the end. If you know, buy this awesome werewolf shifter romance book today, and because people, if they're in the mood for something, they kind of like to be told. Like, you know, they're going to the movies and they're in the mood for popcorn. Your girlfriend says, "Hey, can you get some popcorn?" It's like, yeah, like you need that girlfriend popcorn call to action.
Okay. All right.
I just came up with that. It's a terrible metaphor.
No, I'm going to put it in a book now. It needs to
Okay,
be
girl.
in your copyright.
Brian Cohen's girlfriend
The
popcorn
girlfriend
call to
popcorn
action.
CTA.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. Yeah, you know, I'm always curious because. So what you're describing is not. I mean, that's basic copywriting. I mean, that's the setup for every email, every ad, everything I've ever written for anybody. But the thing that gets me though is like, is it that necessary to have that CTA on your book description on the Amazon page, since that's why they're there, or is it just the extra nudge?
Amazon is a buying platform, but it's also a browsing platform. So
Yeah.
I think that because I've done a lot of browsing on Amazon,
Yeah.
and I'll be on Amazon when I'm looking to buy too, but I'll do a lot of browsing, and I think sometimes that extra encouragement does help. Is it 100% necessary? I don't know. I think the selling paragraph could be enough.
Yeah.
But I don't like to take chances.
Yeah.
And so I especially when someone's buying so many, some people buy so many books at a time,
Right.
they'll make quick split-second decisions. So you need to be in their mind. You need to tap into whatever psychological reasoning you can for getting them to buy your book.
Yeah. I have to. I like the idea, by the way, of starting with the tagline, mostly because of all things, I mean, if unless Amazon just gets rid of the description altogether,
Yeah.
you're at least going to see that one line. So,
Mhm.
like anything else, I mean, it's that sort of elevator pitch kind of idea. Like, you've got 30 seconds, you need to close as quickly as possible. This could be your only opportunity. So, what do you say? And that seems logical to me. I mean, if nothing else, Amazon, I don't understand why Amazon is so dead set to make everything as difficult as possible for anyone trying to sell anything on their site, but
Yep.
they clearly are. So, yeah, that tagline I think is vital. So, what's the secret to a really good hook 'em tagline?
Well, I think that it like I said, it really does vary in between the genres. I think the key is knowing your ideal reader. Is your ideal reader looking for werewolf shifters? Is your ideal reader looking for werewolf shifters who are kissing people? Is your ideal reader looking for werewolf shifters who are kissing people but are also killing other werewolf shifters?
Yeah.
And those are kind of the really where the demarcations are drawn. It's, do they just want these shifters because they like sexy shifters? Do they just want shifters who are involved with someone romantically?
Yeah.
Do they want action and romance at the same time?
Yeah.
I once wrote a pen name book under that maybe had some naughtiness in it. And we I think everyone thinks about doing that. I did pull the trigger once.
Yeah.
And what mistake I made was not knowing the people who care about that genre.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who care about genre with some naughtiness in it, they don't necessarily want weird humor.
Okay.
Which is what I'm good at. I'm good at weird humor, which is why I don't know why I even tried my hand at this other genre, but I tried it.
Everybody's got to do one, I think.
I feel like that was my one, and I learned a lot from it. But I think that you need to know your audience. You need to know who is going to care about your book, and once you figure that out, and I know in you're in copywriting, it's your customer avatar. Is kind of the term that gets thrown around.
Right.
But you kind of need to know your customer avatar for whatever genre you're writing in. And so I definitely recommend that you sit, brainstorm, think about that for a little while. And that is going to help you write not just a better tagline, but a better book.
Right. Yeah. Knowing who you're talking to is always helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, you're writing these for other authors in other genres you don't write in.
Yes.
So how much research are you having to do to understand the market so that you understand the person that they're talking to?
It's not actually that hard. I kind of just look around and see what the other books are doing in that genre, in that category.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be it's not crazy. It's like historical fiction. People want to know the time period and what the characters are going through.
Right.
Romance. They want to know what the two characters are overcoming in order to reach their love. In YA, it's, usually some heroine who's defeating all odds to overcome an unfair world. I mean,
You're right.
Like, it's not that hard. We know it when we boil things down. The problem comes when we get too close and we can't step back to see what that boiled down version is.
So that's a good point. I mean, maybe that's why you've been very successful at this, is because everyone is too close. It's hard to separate yourself, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
And I think that you can get yourself in the mindset to do it. I mean, you know the difference, like having written fiction and copywriting, you know that you need just kind of a different mindset going into a certain project. And so you learn to make that distinction when you're writing. But yeah, I mean, it is difficult for some people.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the things that an author with no copywriting background, I mean, what are some copywriting concepts they need to know and keep in mind while they're writing?
I think every author, if they just sat down and basically worked on headlines and calls to action for like an hour and really forced themselves to make it as short and action-packed and use as many this is a stealing from my Split co-host Robert Scanlon, semantically charged words that mean a lot. The example he gives is the word baby has a lot more impact for people than the word table.
Okay.
Just words that mean things to people. If you sit down and work on headlines and calls to action for a while, you'll start to understand. And you can use those headlines. Like, this is not a book where you can't recopy yourself over again, unless you're me and you split your books into multiple things.
Right.
But you can reuse things. If you come up with an awesome tagline for a book, you can use that in a social media post. You can use that on a landing page. You can use that anywhere where you write copy. You don't have to come up and reinvent the wheel every time. You create something and you can generate more. You can use that tons and tons of times or a variation on it in all of the author copywriting you do.
Yeah. Those are okay. That's going to be fun to watch what you develop to teach people to do that, though, because I've tried teaching copywriting skills to some people, and some people are very difficult. We'll say so. I'm looking for. I can't wait to see what you pull together. Your book that you get to market before I do. Apparently, you'll get it there.
Exactly.
So, all right, and primarily whenever I talk about authors, I'm talking about fiction authors for some reason. I don't know why it never occurs to me to think about the poor nonfiction author out there.
Those guys.
And I think they probably would get the most benefit of. Well, no, that's not true. I was going to say they'd get the most benefit out of copywriting, but I mean, when it comes to descriptions and taglines and any promotional materials, everybody's going to have some use out of that, at least, right?
Yeah, and I actually think the opposite of your initial thought. Fiction authors, I think, are going to get more out of this because nonfiction authors, a lot of the kind of things they write are similar to copy.
Right.
They're problem solution based. So a fiction author who's maybe just completely lost when it comes to copywriting, they definitely need some guidance. So yeah, I think that, we'll see. I'm trying to spread the word slowly but surely that there's rumblings of something that I'm working on, and I hope that people are interested enough to check it out.
Oh, I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they will. Bryan Cohen, the copywriting evangelist. You'll have to add that to your titles.
Copywriting evangelist. No, that's good. That's
TM.
Good.
So, all right. So that's one aspect of what you're doing. I mean, you're doing these descriptions. I mean, how is that going? I mean, you had 100 people, you said, within the first, was it month or 2 months? How?
Yeah, about a month and a half.
So how is that steady? Has that been going? How long have you been doing that, by the way?
So I started in June, so I guess it's been about 4 months, and I'm up to past 200 descriptions.
Oh, okay.
So it's been pretty steady, and if I wasn't working so hard on putting together some training for descriptions for other people, I might be pushing my services even more. But it is hard because you want we've been brought up as these self-published authors. We want passive income, and I've this as a copywriter, when you're doing work for hire, it can be restrictive. And it's pay per hour kind of work. It's not pay per hour, it's pay per project, but still. And so it's trying to find that balance going forward. When I do create some things that are passive that people can purchase related to copywriting, it's going to be interesting to see if I can kind of shift the balance a little more, because days when I have to write a lot of descriptions are difficult. To work on the things that don't pay me now but could pay me later.
Right.
Those are tough.
So you think, are you kind of putting yourself out of business a little if you're telling other, spreading this around and creating courses or whatever to teach people how to do this?
Well, there's this guy, Rick Mulready, who does Facebook ads, and he has a Facebook course. Mm-hmm. He creates Facebook ads for people. He has a Facebook ads course, and he has a podcast about paid traffic.
Okay.
And what he does is he has the free thing first, then he pimps the course, then he upsells the services. Okay. So he's doing great. Yeah. So I kind of want to do what he's doing.
Yeah, I think I can see the wisdom in that, because I will say this. I mean, and I've been in marketing for years, but I hate doing my marketing. Like I really I want to get to a point where I have no problem paying someone else to do it. So it's great for me to learn from all of you guys who are, I keep learning something new. I've been doing this for years, but I learn something new every time I talk to somebody, and it's great to learn this stuff. I'm okay with paying for going through courses and increasing my skill set, but I cannot wait until I'm at a point where I can pay someone else to do all of that for me. So I can understand it. I can see it.
Well, good.
Are you beyond the copywriting? Are you developing any other kind of courses or anything?
One thing at a time, man.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. No, that's the big thing for sure. That's working on the
You've
training
got
for that.
ideas, though.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of interesting stuff coming up. I've got a booktuber who is a young adult book reviewer on YouTube, and they are a very popular community. And I have a popular UK booktuber promoting me and talking about my TED Saves the World series in October. And I'm going to try to do a lot of discounting and pushing it to see how that connects, because that's like a whole new ball game. That's YouTube and Instagram and Goodreads. There's just a lot of pools that the BookTube community dips their toes into, and it's going to be really interesting because I haven't done so well necessarily at pushing things on Goodreads and YouTube
I'm pretty terrible at that.
and Instagram, but that's where a lot of my target readers are. So that'll be really interesting to see. I've got other ideas for podcast stuff going in the future. I want to finish my TED series. I'm through book 4 out of a planned 7. So I would like to finish that series. But there's all sorts of stuff, I mean, that I have ideas about in the future. I mean, heck, I want to be on American Ninja Warrior in 2017. That's like a goal. That's a goal. And
doing that.
Right? Wouldn't that be awesome? Man, I really got into that show this year.
At least past the qualifying round, I'm sure. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal. I mean, the real goal is to have a good enough story so you don't have to wait in the walk-on line for 10 days.
Exactly.
But no, I'm starting my pull-up challenges soon. I've been doing P90X3 for 6 months with my wife. I'm trying to get in ninja shape. So that's really the goal. I mean, screw publishing.
Yeah, exactly. Publishing is just the vehicle to get you to the.
It's just the vehicle to get me on American Ninja Warrior. Yeah.
So, how are you marketing your books? What's your strategy?
Well, I think that you need to kind of see what's working, and the biggest thing that's working right now is setting up an email list, building it up over time, and then promoting sales and new releases to your email list. That's the fundamental of both the big courses that have come out in recent months, with Mark Dawson's Facebook Ads for Authors and Nick Stevenson's Your First 10K Readers. Both of those courses essentially are building up your mailing list. Now, Mark's also has direct sales through the ads too, but really it's the reason those work is building up your mailing list. And one of the big things that I'm going to have to touch on in my training I'm working on is, well, how can copy contribute to building up your mailing list? And so mailing list is definitely the best way to work on this stuff right now. Sometimes we get into weeds a little bit on Sell More Books Show because we can't just say the tip of the week every week is to build up your mailing list, but we could, and it would be legitimate. Tip of the week this week, once again, for 57 weeks in a row, is build up your mailing list. And I'm not always good at it. I'm not always doing a good job at it.
Well, that's part of that is because the things that work keep changing.
Well, that's part of it. That's part of it. But the mailing list doesn't change.
That's true.
Hasn't changed in years. You've been a copywriter for a long time. You know that it hasn't changed.
No, as long as I've been in business. I mean, email barely existed when I started writing for a living, and it still was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
To have somebody to talk to. So that's your Oh, okay, so that's a given. I mean, I understand, and the audience understands that building and hitting the mailing list, that's going to be your number one thing. Are there any other marketing tricks that you fall back on?
Marketing tricks I fall back on. Well, if you are a fiction author versus a nonfiction author, you can't really use this trick as much, but create a podcast
Yeah.
and make it about your subject matter.
Yeah.
If you are going to do fiction podcasting, it needs to be really good.
Yeah.
I know there's one, Welcome to Night Vale, that is very loved, and it's essentially kind of almost like a fiction radio show in a way.
Yeah.
And that is really something, because, like, really, here's a tip. Something that worked 5 years ago probably doesn't work anymore, other than email.
Right.
So blog tours, nope. Twitter packages, I don't know if those ever worked.
I don't think so.
Getting Facebook likes, no, doesn't work anymore. So update often. Update your methodology for marketing often.
Yeah.
But make your number one priority the things that always work. It's like if you're investing in the stock market.
Right.
I was here listening to a podcast the other day on smart passive income, and this guy was talking about a guy who earns like 7 figures a year or whatever, talking about how he invests his money. And one way to invest your money is to buy consistent dividend yielding stocks that no matter what the stock actually makes, they still pay out to people.
Yeah.
Because they still pay out to people because they're just these big companies. Like Coca-Cola is one of them.
Right.
And so your dividend yielding marketing technique, the one that's going to be consistent, it may have ups and downs, but it's always going to be your solid number one bet. That should be the one you focus on the most. That should be the one you put your money into, your time into. So that's the email marketing.
Right.
But you can also have some risks here and there. There's a lot of people trying Periscope and other Blab and other digital like live video that could work. Who knows? Like, maybe this will work. Maybe it'll only last for a couple months. But those can be you spend a few hours a week on those versus spending 10 plus hours a week on the thing that always works.
Yeah. I got to tell you, numerous people have told me I should hop on Periscope. And I really want to. I really do. But man, one more thing. I mean, come on.
Right? No, I know.
I'm barely
it's
keeping up with the
insane.
stuff I do now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, look, we're up against my timeline here. I don't want to keep you for too long. I appreciate you hanging out with us. And I'm going to send everybody, of course, to all of your various links. I'm going to put all those in the show notes.
Nice.
And, if you're not listening, by the way, to the Sell More Books podcast, and you are interested in being an author, you're really missing out. You need to check that out. I could plug a couple other podcasts, but for right now, go check out Sell More Books podcast. And you guys are doing a great job. I'm a listener. I enjoy it. Sorry, I haven't checked out the split yet. I don't know why.
Oh, that's okay. That's kind of my smaller of the two that not as many people know about. I think that we could do a better job of spreading the word about that, and so that's on us. But it's a really interesting way to think about author craft, because people always say read more books. They always say read more books.
Right.
And we're now reading a lot of books, but we're also taking the time to analyze them.
Yeah.
And we're basically giving everybody the results of our analysis.
Right.
So we actually just recorded. It won't be up for a couple weeks, but the kind of our year in review, because it was our 51st episode. I needed to take a month off, so we did the 51st episode in there as our year in review instead of number 52. And we just talked about all the things we'd learned over the last year that make a book solid.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know about that, you can go to
All
thesplitbookreviews.com.
right, so that's a
And
jump on episode.
yeah, exactly. That is a good, jump there, jump on there, but then go listen to the back catalog.
Yeah, definitely. All right. We'll send them there. You didn't give me a URL for that one, so I'll have to go hunt it up.
Yeah.
Is it, or is there a URL for it? Or
Yeah,
is it just
the
the
splitbookreviews.com.
splitbookreviews.com? Well, you heard it here, everybody.
You heard
So,
it here first, folks.
all right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you, well, go check out those show notes, everybody, and go click through. You're gonna find plenty of interesting things to keep you entertained and inspired and educated, and I'm always for that. So, thanks again for hanging out with us, Bryan, and everyone else. Stay tuned for the wrap up at the end of the show. Well, that was Bryan Cohen, and I am really glad to have had that conversation with him because, well, I think we got a lot in common. I think, between the copywriting and the books and the podcasts, we got a lot of things going on. So I'm glad to talk to Bryan. And, he made a lot of great points. Now, from a marketing perspective, the stuff that he does with book descriptions, and you should consider going to him for your book descriptions. It's a little bit like cover design in some respects. Like, unless you are already sort of, skilled in that area and you've been doing it for a while, maybe you've even been paid to do it for a while, it's a tricky kind of thing to master. Even I have some tough times. Sometimes I got to go back and redo all my book descriptions. And now I've got a whole new idea for how to approach this because Amazon has changed the way they do their display the descriptions on the site. And I'm just going to be frank here. It's idiotic the way Amazon has done this. I mean, it's honestly, to me and to a lot of people I know, it almost feels like Amazon doesn't want to sell anything sometimes, or at least not to sell books. Because they've made it nearly impossible for the reader to actually read anything about the book that they're about to purchase. So people start making their purchases based solely on how many stars it has or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's better. I don't know. But anyway, that's I rant a little, but the fact is copywriting is a skill that you can leverage even if they only give you one line. You can think about the power of things like a tweet. There are tweets that have changed the world, and that's a 140 character limit. So if you start thinking in terms of that, how can I boil the message of this book down into 140 characters or less? It's going to benefit you a lot. Now, if you don't have that skill, if you don't feel confident in it, strong in it, Bryan will actually do more than 140 characters for you, but he will tune that. So definitely check him out. You'll find links to his website on in the show notes, but you can check out authorcopy.com. That's a pretty easy one to remember. You should also check out the Sell More Books show. Check out Best Page Forward and the Split. Check all that stuff out. He's really got a lot going on. He's like me. Only I think he's probably doing a little better. So, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thanks so much for tuning in again. If you are a will-be author, if you're an entrepreneur, or you want to write your first fiction book, or you know the value of a book for your business, I hope you will get in touch with me. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com where you can actually email me or leave me a voicemail from the SpeakPipe tab. Go check out 30 Day Author on all your various book retailers online. You can download that just about anywhere. And that's I hope that helps you. And I'd be happy to chat with you. I do actually offer some author coaching, so if you're looking to get into this and do this, I'm happy to help you out. I don't know. I enjoy talking to people about this stuff, and I do it a lot. I mean, I host 3 different shows, and I'm and I'm writing books about the topic and blog posts about the topic, so apparently I have something to say. Now, whether it has any value to you is up to you. So go check that out. Now, for this show, if you would like to ask a question and have me answer it on air, I'm happy to do that. Call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And you can leave me a voicemail, and I'm happy to play that on air and answer your questions. If you want to do that in written form, cool with that too, go to wordslingerpodcast.com. You can click on the contact button. While you're there, you'll be able to, that website is my personal website. I point that domain to a page on that site so that, I don't know, I'm cheap. I don't know why I do it that way. It just seemed to work out for me, and that gives you an opportunity to kind of scan around and see some of my work, see my fiction, which is what I primarily write. And I hope you get in on that. You can also get on my mailing list and get my starter library for absolutely free. That's 3 free books. And I think you'll dig that. Go to kevintumlinson.com/starter library, and you'll be able to register and get those books and download those books. So, and that gives you cool updates from me every week. So I hope you're enjoying the show. I hope you're enjoying life in general, and I hope you tune in next week for another fun-filled, pantsless episode of the Word Slinger podcast. We'll see you next week.
Word Slinger.